Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Chicanery. Of course, it is two regular hosts, Danny and JT.
Hello and welcome back. Buckle up, guys, gals, non-binary pals, because this is gonna be a long episode.
Yes, so this is sports cars and basically everything to do with it. We've got IMSA silly season, Daytona updates, WEC season recaps, and any updates there. And then, we've even got a fun Macau GP episode. So this is right on the heels of the Formula One season, Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and Formula One season recap, and mild speculation and general goofiness. Um, so, because this is very much JT's TM, I am going to let her run the episode. So, I am merely but a passenger in this vehicle.
Oh
So,
gosh.
please take it away, friend.
Okay, I guess we're gonna start off with IMSA's silly season. I don't know. I don't know if it's really called silly season in IMSA, but we're gonna call it slash updates for Daytona because I know the Daytona Rolex 24 race entry list came out like a week or two ago. But we'll get to that. We're going to start off with Corvette. Corvette signed some new drivers recently, um, which consists of Charlie Eastwood, Daniel. I can't even say this name, honestly. I should have practiced this before I came
Oh,
on here.
Yuncadella? Yeah.
Yeah, Ian Cadella, Nico Varone, and Earl Bamber. It's a good lineup. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's decent drivers. However, I feel like it's kind of random. Like, it's just a random mix up of people that they put together.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like I said, that's absolutely it. That's a fine group of talent. Like, don't get me wrong, I would not be upset if I had a sports car team and this was my driver list, but I agree, it does feel a bit all over the place. Um, we'll see. It feels like almost like if this was like a one of those, motorsport manager games and you were creating a driver lineup. This kind of feels like this is something that I would do. I guess is kind of the best way I can think to phrase it.
I mean, yeah, it does. It's kind of just like, yeah, this makes sense, so we're gonna do it. And I don't know, I got really confused on what Corvette was even supposed to be doing at the end of this season because I thought they were ending their factory program, so I thought that meant there was gonna be no more Corvettes on the grid. And then they're like, oh yeah, this Corvettes, and it's the big yellow one. So I'm like, what exactly did they change?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit a couple episodes ago, but they were ending the factory program, then there was some talk they were, going to be doing the customer team. And I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but think the customer cars, that's WEC with what they're running. But yeah, they're like factory program dead, but then they pull the wraps off of Pratt Miller Motorsports, which for those of you aware, Pratt Miller Motorsports are who operated the factory team for the C8R. And then they've got this team. So it's basically a factory team, but they're not calling it a factory team.
I guess just a rebrand. I don't know.
It's
I feel like I
basically
got
what it
duped a
is.
little bit.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. From what I understand, this is for all intents and purposes. This is the factory Corvette racing team. But yes, they have just rebranded so it's a little bit less like the factory team, but the cars are still yellow. They really don't look all that different from the outgoing. Well, it's a different shade of yellow. That's really the difference here. But
I mean, to be honest, I feel like it might not even matter as long as it's like Corvettes equals good.
I say generally speaking, that's how it goes. So I'm yeah, I'm hoping that they'll be quick and that they'll be good. But yeah, but the whole thing with Corvette, particularly in IMSA, has been super confusing with exactly what they are and are not doing.
I mean, I'm just gonna be like, you know what? Corvette factory team. Even though that's not really what y'all are, to me, that's what it is. It's literally just a factory program.
Yeah, basically, like I said, it's a factory program and everything but name, ostensibly. Um, I'll have to reach out, maybe for some clarification. because I've got a couple of good friends that operate kind of in the orbit of Corvette, and they might be able to shed a little bit of light on that. But yeah, it looks like it's factory. So congratulations, you confused the hell out of all of us, but I'll take it because well, Corvette's good.
So the next thing we have is FAF Motorsports. Obviously, we already talked about how they are switching from Porsche to McLaren, so they will be in a McLaren GT car this upcoming season. And they signed Oliver Jarvis, who was previously with United Autosports, um, Marvin Kirchhofer, James Hinchcliffe, and Alexander Rossi.
Yeah, I'm about it. Particularly having Hinch and Rossi. Certainly, when you start talking about IndyCar in the last 10 years, those are two of my favorite guys. So
I mean, I think
I
it's a good mix just because they have a podcast together. It's like they
mhm.
have the hosts of Off Track racing together. Wonderful.
Yeah, no, I am super about it. So I guess here's the question is with Rossi, I'm granted I have to look once again, consummate professionals here. But the IndyCar schedule, while they usually IndyCar and IMSA, well, Detroit, they do conflict. Um, but well, kind of, sort of. I mean, the races are on different days, but like the practices and stuff. But otherwise, I guess they should be different enough that hint or that Rossi can run both. But I wonder how that's going to work. I guess
If
that's my broader
anything, I don't
question.
know. I might have to go back and see if there was any like specification, but it might be that he's just on that lineup for the Enduros. Like I think Hinchcliffe is on that lineup for the Enduros as well, and
Okay.
not for like the rest of the IMSA season. And if it's just the endurance races, then it should be fine. There shouldn't be any conflicts with IndyCar. Like Daytona is fine. Plenty of
Hmm.
people doing Daytona. Sebring is also fine. Watkins Glen should be fine as well. And then obviously Petit Le Mans should be fine.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And that was actually going to be my other question. It's like, okay, is Rossi just because Rossi has done Daytona before? So I'm like, okay, maybe this is just for Daytona. Okay, but that makes a little bit more sense. But no, good lineup. I like it a lot, actually. Um, so it'll be, certainly it'll be one of the cars, certainly at Daytona, that I will be paying lots of attention to. Just got to count down the days. So I'm actually kind of hyped for this year's Daytona, but we'll get onto that.
So the next thing we have is Lambo, at least for their GTP slash hypercar. They apparently are not going to be debuting at Daytona and instead
Boo.
will be at Sebring. I don't know, not sure why that is. I'm not sure if Daytona, like their debut at Daytona, was ever in their plans to begin with, or if it had to do with the fact that I think at one point during their testing, they did crash the car, or whoever was driving it, whoever was testing at that time, did crash it, and maybe that had something to do with it, and they have to push back when they're debuting the car for a race because they need to repair it or something like that. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Also, did they say who was driving the car when they bend it? Because $10 says it was Roma. Yeah.
I don't know who it was. To be honest, I don't think it was Roman. I think because at least there's at least two people I know they're driving it. At least for the World Endurance Championship, which is Bortolotti, and I think it was Kvyat were the two
Oh.
that were confirmed, I think.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about Kvyat. But yeah, but I mean all jokes aside, yeah, I don't know what sets the time tables if like you said they were just never going to run at Daytona before, which seems like such a missed opportunity to intentionally skip Daytona. Maybe they're trying to avoid BMW Daytona disaster class potentially. Um
I mean, to be honest, at that point, I feel like yeah, it's Daytona and it's a really important race. It's a big race, and it kind of does look a little bit embarrassing if you go to Daytona and completely flop like that. However, it's the first time you're doing it, so it's like if there's ever a time to just flop and get the flop out of the way, might as well just do it at that race because again, it is Daytona, but it is a really long race, so you have enough time to like kind of waffle around and fix up the car if it's needed, so you aren't really hemorrhaging too much.
Yeah, like I said, I agree, but no, I'd be interested, like I said, if a Lamborghini ever publishes any sort of rationale for the change. Like I said, I'm certainly a little disappointed that they won't be at Daytona, but if it means the car is better for Sebring, then I mean, hey ho, bring it on, right?
Yeah. Uh, keeping on track with the list, the next thing was Pratt Miller. They're in GTD. They added Sheldon Vanderlyn to their lineup, and I think they are also moving up to GTD Pro.
Interesting. Um, Once again, we were literally just talking about it. I haven't the foggiest idea what Pratt Miller is doing with these cars, and it really doesn't make any sense to me. Again, you talk about, good quality drivers that they have on payroll. Again, Sheldon is certainly one of them, but I just, like I said, this process has just been so confusing. And it's weird because when Pratt Miller got more active on social media, because I mean, Pratt Miller has actually gotten super active on Twitter here this last little bit. I was hoping that that might lend some clarity to sort of the way they move. Honestly, now I just wish we would go back to them communicating through either GM or press portals, because it's honestly worse with them tweeting the news now.
Maybe they're just tweeting through it, just like literally just tweeting through it. I mean, honestly, it's kind of just as confusing as Corvette is. It's like, okay. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe they're still in GTD. Maybe they have two cars. One is in GTD and one is in GTD Pro. I checked
yeah,
the list earlier and I can't remember, but I don't know.
yeah, same thing. It's just kind of like, I'll need to go back and look. Maybe as I edit this, I might splice in a little note here to confirm this. But like, same thing. It's just confusing, and it's like, ugh. But anyway,
The next thing was Richard Westbrook, who was driving the number two Cadillac in the World Endurance Championship, moved to JDC Miller in the Porsche GTP, the banana boat car,
hmm
which is not shocking because he was one of the weaker drivers on the Cadillac lineup. So
yeah, exactly. I'd say it makes in that context, it makes sense. Like if you were to just read, in this case, this bullet point and go Richard Westbrook. That's remarkably difficult to say. Moves to JDC Miller, and you're like, well, why would you do that? But yeah, like you said, he was one of the slower drivers in the Cadillac program, and it seems like they're out for blood in GTP. So it's not super surprising that it seems like he's ostensibly been dropped from that program. Certainly wish him much luck in the Porsche, and maybe a not factory program will be a kind of a good place for him, but is a bummer.
now we have Andretti Motorsports They're switching from an Aston Martin to a Porsche GTD. To be honest, I didn't really pay that much attention to Andretti Motorsports, so we'll just see how that goes. To be honest, it might go worse, honestly, just because I don't know how well the BOP is on the Porsche GTDs, so it could essentially go worse. We'll see.
Yeah, I that doesn't make sense to me, like hardly at all. The Aston Martins had the potential to be very, very quick, and the Porsches were very well not. Now of course I'm assuming BOP is going to be a lot better for the Porsche this year. But it also seems silly to switch manufacturers right on the eve of there's going to be a new Vantage GT3. It's already Aston Martin had actually teased it 2 weeks ago now, as of the time of this recording. Thereabouts. But But yeah, there's a new one coming. So if it was any potential performance concerns, that very well may have been allayed by that new car. So this is confusing to me. Um, yeah, I don't understand it personally, but I'm assuming there's somebody who gets paid way more than I do to make these decisions that knows something I don't.
So like we said before, kind of dabbled in already, the Daytona 24 Hours entry list, or at least the preliminary one came out recently, and there's a lot of big names on the list, which probably just to help with attendance, because if you get a lot of big name people there, you'll get people to show up, or you should, logically speaking. And we have Marcus Ericsson and Jensen Button driving on. I don't even know if they're on the same lineup. They might not be. I don't think they are. I think they're on each of the Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Acuras. So we'll see how that goes as well.
Yeah, I just love it. It feels like Jensen is in kind of his era of he'll race anything with four wheels, kind of like what Juan Pablo Montoya and kind of Fernando Alonso were doing for a period. And I love it. Seeing him at Daytona, he's racing, stock cars. It's just I think it's great. So I'm about it. And well, Jensen also just seems like kind of a cool dude. So I love it. And actually, it's cool to see Marcus on the field. He's a talented driver. You know, feels like, he cops maybe a bit too much flack in IndyCar, but hey ho.
I mean, he did race the Daytona 24 Hours before with
Mhm.
Cadillac, I think.
Yeah, but no, I love seeing Marcus on the grid, but yeah, no, it'll be also I just want to say the Wayne Taylor Andretti tie-up, like that has become like the most clunky name imaginable. Like you really mean to tell me you
It
guys
literally
couldn't have
says
figured
in the
that out?
thing Wayne Taylor with Andretti. And they even changed their like logo thing on Twitter, at
Mhm.
least on their socials, and it has like the Wayne Taylor Racing thing like next to the Andretti thing.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that. And like I said, it's just, okay,
It's a
I understand.
clunky name, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. I understand you want to honor, both parts of that, but it's like you couldn't have just been like Andretti Taylor, Taylor Andretti or something. Honestly, I feel like that's probably what they're gonna start saying during the broadcast. It's just,
Probably because it's just too damn hard to say. Nobody's saying the whole freaking thing. It's kind of just as bad as like Porsche Penske like that. If you say that 5 times fast, like you can, it's just. I mean, it's not as clunky because you kind of have the nice little alliteration with the two P's, but I don't know. And you know what? Maybe them. You know, I'm gonna table that. We're not gonna talk about that just yet. We're gonna
okay.
keep moving on now because we have more IndyCar drivers in the Daytona race. We have now. This was announced just this week. Pato Award and Felix Rosenquist, old teammates, are now together at United Autosport. I think they're in a McLaren GTD for the Daytona Assault.
Yeah, good stuff. As you previously pointed out, they're teammates, they know each other well, they kind of know how they drive. I figured that's honestly probably just a really good pairing, I think. Um, so you could certainly do a lot worse than these two. But it's funny, and we talk about it, and Daytona is very much a really kind of a who's who event of motorsports. It feels like anybody who has raced a car gets a ride at
I mean, I
Daytona.
love Daytona because it's literally just like the crossover episode of motorsports. Like you will have
Yes.
everybody from any possible background racing in it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I do. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So, to see, ex Formula One, NASCAR drivers show up to Daytona. Um, Speaking of which, I know it's entirely too late, but it would have been super cool to have Blaney in one of the Penske Porsches
Well,
for
to be honest, I don't think that would have happened because
no.
you need experience with prototype racing first
Mhm.
before they're gonna let you get in a GTP.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but Like I said, it would have been, cool, given the Penske through line there to have Ryan in a car. Um,
We need Will Power at the Rolex 24, really, because he was
uh,
supposed to do it last year, but his wife
yes.
got sick.
Mhm. Yeah, so maybe they'll get that back on the table because yes, that would be neat. But yes, no, like you said, it's the crossover episode of racing is the Daytona 24, so it's always so cool to see all the drivers from the different categories.
And then going back to Corvette again, we now have Alex Lynn joins AWA Corvette for the Rolex 24 as well.
Yeah, it's all the folks. I
It's a big party.
yeah, exactly. The Corvette team is, collecting drivers like they're Infinity Stones right now, which is kind of wild. But
I think
yeah, I
it's funny that the two the two Cadillac factory drivers, Alex Lynn and Earl Bamber, somehow managed they ended up in Corvettes just on two separate teams somehow.
mhm.
I don't know if that was coincidence or there was something that happened behind the scenes.
Yeah, I don't know. We talked about it before. IMSA is famously, in sports car racing generally, is much less catty than like Indy and NASCAR and Formula One. So it's a lot harder to kind of gauge if something has happened behind the scenes and just nobody will talk about it, or if it is purely coincidence. Because I'm messy, I like to believe that something went on behind the scenes, but probably not.
I we will never know. The world
No,
may never know.
no, we won't.
Now we're going to talk about expectations. I know I have some expectations, which one of them being I would really hope, I am hoping that the GTP field gives Acura a run for their money. It like makes them work for that win because I already know right now with that lineup, it's pretty good. They got a lot of good people on that lineup, which maybe the Andretti in them will jump out and they will fumble something. But judging by how much they already have fumbled in the past, it's probably not likely. It's not likely because they're going to be more determined than ever to get that win, especially after coming in second to Meyer Shank last year, then having Meyer Shank get whacked for cheating. And then their win is kind of like, is this really a real win? I mean, this is kind of a fraudulent win. So I hope at least make them work for this win. I beg of you.
Yeah, agreed. I want the Taylor Andretti Acuras to get pushed a bit for this. I expect that will probably be certainly the prototype to beat. Now as for the GT field, um, I am, I guess, less of an expectation, but more of a hope. I am hoping that the Corvettes are quick, sort of out of the gate. Um, we'll have to kind of see how that goes, but that's hoping for that. And I am my expectation is that the IMSA has wrapped their heads around BOPing the Porsches because I mean we've talked about it before, but that was a farce, or at least it verged on um, just how bad that was. So I am expecting that they will have gotten the message and the Porsche should be more competitive this year.
I I would hope because if the same thing ends up happening, granted there aren't too many people on like that team that I like rep that hard anymore now that it's not Porsches, but or at least on FAF, like I don't there's not too many people I rep on the team anymore. But I would just hope that that does not happen because that would be incredibly disappointing. You know what? I hope to see like a four-way GTP fight for the win. Maybe even five-way. I want to see like everybody fighting for it.
I love your optimism.
It probably won't happen, but I can hope at least.
I was just about to say, yeah, you can absolutely hope. I don't know that we're gonna get that necessarily, but like I said, I love the optimism. I hope it does happen. So, but hey ho, I will certainly, regardless, whatever happens, I will be there. I will be watching
I
this
will
race.
I will be there no matter what. Now we're gonna move on to the World Endurance Championship and a season recap and some updates because there have been a lot of updates that happened here as well. And we're gonna start off with, as usual, the best race and the worst race.
Yeah, see, sports cars is always kind of tough because it feels like the floor for bad races is so much higher than it is in a lot of other series, and it always makes picking the worst one difficult. Now, I will say certainly best race. Um, Fuji was actually really good, which I didn't entirely expect, and so was Sebring. I guess if you made me pick one, I would pick Fuji. But and like I said again, a worst race is so tough. Now, and we've talked about this, I guess given the way sort of race control and procedure, if I pick a worst race, it might actually be Le Mans, just because their handling and the constant full course yellows was tough and it made especially the first like 6 hours were virtually unwatchable because of all of the full course yellows. But yeah, but I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, honestly, I can't really say like worst race just because like it's just hard to say that just to say that the race was bad. Like it wasn't necessarily bad, but like kind of boring per se was, at least in my opinion, Monza. The 6 hours of Monza was kind of boring in my opinion.
Hmm.
But I mean, just because it was boring for me doesn't mean it was a bad race. It just could have been a race I just didn't find too particularly interesting. The best race, to be honest, I don't know. Honestly, I would say Sebring was decent, and Fuji was also decent as well. I would say maybe like Spa. Spa was also good, but this is what I mean. Like best race, I don't know. I would probably say Sebring just because I like the event as a whole, having the World Endurance Championship and IMSA, like the double header thing. Obviously, that's not on the schedule anymore, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it sucks so much that the Super Sebring weekend is basically dead. That was like my favorite, honestly. But oh well. Anyway,
Now, I guess kind of the same thing, just with teams and drivers. Drivers and teams that exceeded expectations or were disappointments.
so I guess for me, exceeding expectations, I'm I'm actually genuinely surprised. I didn't expect Corvette to win the championship, especially with just one car. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Corvettes have been, fast for 25 years, but like I said, I didn't expect them to take it. Like I said, with a single car entry. And I am like genuinely surprised by that. So I would say that definitely exceeded expectations, and that's I guess on the GT side. Now, as for disappointing over the season, the Peugeot hypercar, I love it so much. I think it is such a cool car, and the fact that they didn't run it with a wing was so cool. But that car was just so slow all season.
I
Um,
mean, they managed to lead Le Mans. I mean, at least you can say a wingless Peugeot hypercar led Le Mans.
yeah, absolutely, and I think that is super cool. And I thought Le Mans might actually be the turnaround for that team, but it just really wasn't.
I mean,
And it
it
is.
also did well in like the rain, like when there was rain conditions, like rainy
Mhm.
conditions, it seemed to do pretty well there too.
Yeah, but overall, it just wasn't really that great of a car. And, from everything we talked about this last time we covered WEC, it sounds like they're revising the aero philosophy of that car, i.e., they're going to give it a wing, which
I mean,
I
I
think.
respect them for trying. I respect the thought process. They were like, "Yeah, let's screw it. Let's not put a wing on it," even though it's like, yeah. I mean, I respect the innovation, but it just didn't work out. And it's also kind of disappointing since they technically had a head start over most of like the hypercar field anyway. Like they started last year at the end of the 2022 season, and they still seem to just flop a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like I said, it was a bummer. I think the car looks incredible. Like honestly, I have to stop myself because I find myself browsing on eBay, the Le Mans, or the diecasts of the Le Mans car very regularly, and IMSA slash WEC diecasts are good quality ones. Are actually kind of expensive, so I was like, I have to stop, otherwise I'd spend $1,000 in diecast. But um, yeah, I think it is such a cool car. It is genuinely probably my favorite of the hypercars, but it just wasn't quick, and that is super disappointing to me.
I would also say another team that was kind of a disappointment to me was Porsche Penske. They were not, I mean, I don't know. In IMSA, they did pretty well, actually. Or at least in sprint races, they did well. I mean, maybe you could say that they were kind of sprint race merchants in IMSA, but I think they, for the most part, did pretty well. I mean, at Watkins Glen, they did well, except for if it weren't for the penalty that they got for the skid block, where they would have won the race, and they did fine. But I mean, the whole season in the World Endurance Championship was just kind of lackluster for them. I mean, they did get a podium, and I think Portimao they got a podium, and Fuji they also got a podium as well. But it's just like overall was kind of disappointing for me at least.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Of two basically titans of motorsport, Penske and Porsche, I don't know, I did actually expect more. I anticipated that was going to be the, hypercar to beat, the GTP to beat. That was what I figured. I'm like, "Oh, great, they're gonna win everything known to man, and it's gonna be a really boring next couple of years with this class." And then they just didn't. And I was like, oh.
It's like me, I was like waiting for the whole season that they would do something, and it's just like that moment never really came. I mean, they had again some little moments of greatness, at Le Mans and other races, but I'm just like most of it was like, go girl, give us nothing.
Yeah, yeah, basically, it's, that meme where the guy's poking the rock with a stick, and it's like, "Come on, do something." That was, yeah, basically me. You know, I as prophetic as it sounds, I figured, it was really when, the Porsche was having some battery issues at Daytona. I'm like, "Okay, well, maybe this car isn't gonna be as OP as I thought it was." But
I remember even when that first happened, I would literally my whole heart dropped when that happened. I'm like, the whole race is over. It's even more over than previously thought possible.
mhm, yeah, it's Jover. But yeah, no, that was kinda when I'm like, "Okay, well, maybe this car isn't so great." But but yeah, no, like I said, given the two, like I said, titans of, racing, that is Porsche and Penske, I did expect actually a bit more from this car, on the year. But the difference is, part of me was kind of praying for their downfall because, like I said, Porsche basically won everything that there was to win in GT class racing. And then it's like, now you're going to come into GTP and do this?" Whereas, like I said, I was actively rooting for Peugeot, and they just broke my heart repeatedly. It's like they took it and smashed it into a
I
million
cannot.
pieces.
I can't. I can't do it. You call the Peugeot.
Eh, yeah, they killed me. I said I love it. I think it is such a cool car, and they just, well, like I said, and it was, I genuinely think was the coolest looking car of the group. Um, but anyway, I guess teams and drivers that are sorry, best and worst performing teams. So
You know what? I guess starting with hypercar. Best performing teams is obviously Toyota. It's not really shocking there.
Yeah.
Um, worst, either Van Wall or Glickenhaus.
Can be a joint award for worst?
Yeah, you know what? Joint award. They both can get the same award.
Yeah, you both fail. For me, yeah, it's definitely best performing is Toyota. There was no question. I mean, the Ferrari definitely had moments of brilliance throughout the season. And it's wild that, it's the Le Mans team that is apparently the competently run Ferrari outfit, not the Formula One team. Um, but yeah, I mean, the Toyota is kind of that's the Death Star of hypercar at the moment. Granted, the field's going to fill out significantly next year, and that I guess could give them some trouble. But honestly, I kind of doubt it. Um,
I don't think so. LMP2, honestly, I can't even think of any LMP2 teams off the top of my head that are like the worst. I mean, I think best at least was like either might have been WTR or like United Autosports. They were pretty good the whole year.
yeah, exactly. Much like we were kind of talking about with just the races. The sort of the ceiling and the floor from best to worst, and P2 is actually fairly small. Um, So it's one of those things where, yeah, I would say, probably United, but they're all probably the best, but they're all kind of in the same similar vicinity. And it just seems to kind of depend on, luck and some external factors is what drives that more so than general competence. But anyway.
GTE, honestly, I don't know either. Obviously, Corvette did pretty well
Hmm.
since they won the championship, but worst? I don't know. Again, it's like the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you can argue certainly for the first part of the season, the Enduros definitely, the Porsches kind of got boned and all of that. But, once, basically they screamed about it enough, they were able to get it to where those cars became vaguely competitive, towards, kind of the halfway point of the season going forward. But but yeah, same thing, you could say, Corvette, you could say, yeah, really, I guess it's getting really Corvette and I guess the Porsches? I guess, and I guess you could also extend this into maybe slightly disappointing, given that the Lamborghini, the Huracan, and the Audi R8s are going away. I was hoping they might go out with a bit of a bang, and they didn't really. But so I guess maybe those are contenders. Because truth be told, those cars haven't really done much useful their entire life cycle in these series, to be honest. Which again, and I love the road car versions of those, both of those, but so and also like when the race cars would be quick. But anyhow,
They will just fade into obscurity, I suppose.
yeah, it's one of those things that's like mediocrity is almost worse than just being straight up bad. Because at least people
I mean, at
remember
least
you.
you will be remembered for being bad.
Yes,
Like
exactly.
that
But
leaves
nobody
a mark, it leaves an impression.
yeah, but nobody remembers you if you just hang out in, the mid pack all the time. Oh goodness. But so what are we feeling I guess expectations for next year?
Honestly, I mean, I would hope that with there being more hypercars next season, specifically 19 hypercars now in the field,
Oh
that
god.
maybe Toyota would have a little bit of competition. Again, I'm not confident that that's what's going to happen, but again, I can hope.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing, I mean, there's a bit of shakeup, with the regs for the GT cars, so that could potentially be a little bit of a for some of the newer manufacturers entering, that could be a touch challenging. But but yeah, no, I really want the addition of all the hypercars to shake things up a little bit. Because you've got Lamborghini, and do we still know how they're delineating WEC? The IMSA, is it gonna be, 1 and 1? Is it just gonna be IMSA? Because Lamborghini has been super. I know I asked this question last time we did it, and I don't feel like there's been any information about it.
I don't know. Currently on the entry list, they have it as one car for the World Endurance Championship, so it might be 1-1.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking, with the, increase in the field type, 'cause, we've got a Lamborghini, BMW is joining this year. We've got, like I said, we've got some new faces joining the hypercar crowd. So, like we'll see. We'll get to this in a second, but we've got another Ferrari, which is like why. But anyway, um, yeah. So I'm like, like I said, somebody challenge Toyota, please. I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah. So apparently, the World Endurance Championship is also implementing a virtual safety car procedure, which I think is, from what I heard from other people, is supposed to be used during pit windows. I guess to like kind of prevent people from getting like caught out from like full course yellows or something like that.
Yeah, alrighty, that's fair enough. I find it wild that WC has never had effectively a VSC until now. There was
Yeah,
lots of
that's.
yeah, there was lots of hay made about it. Especially when it was introduced in F1 in 2016 was the first year of VSC, I think. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure, but but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 16 when it was, implemented, and I would have figured that, like I said, WC would do it, and the fact that it's taken them, basically the better part of a decade is just a little surprising to me.
I mean, I guess like they kind of like even like I would say like their full course yellow procedures are kind of sort of similar to just like a virtual safety car because like I don't really think they they don't the safety car doesn't go out like
Mhm.
it's just a full course yellow is everybody just slows down and then once it's lifted you can race again. So I mean I don't know.
Yeah, I say it's kinda sorta because, the big thing about VSCs is also, the fact that you're basically maintaining deltas. The idea is, that you don't, at least in Formula One, let me clarify. Um, the idea is, get the field slowed down, but to try to prevent, basically kind of the bunching up that could give some cars an advantage or not. So, and like I said, WEC doesn't really do that. So, like I said, it's their current full course yellow procedure is kind of weird. Um, Honestly, the whole thing about how they handle yellows in WEC is kind of strange to me, to be honest. Maybe I just don't I haven't followed long enough for it to make sense. But no, but
I
like
mean
I said, I
at least it's not as like ridiculous as IMSA is sometimes.
oh good lord, yeah. If there's any series that desperately needs of some sort of VSC procedure, really it's IMSA because them throwing full course yellows every 2 seconds drives me nuts. It feels like it's well, we talked about it a few episodes ago. It feels like it's a for the show thing to bunch everybody up, and it's so stupid. It's like we don't need for a 4 minute long lap. We don't need a full course yellow for a single piece of debris in one corner.
Their full course yellows are so long. Like they feel like it feels like 20 minutes. At least the ones at like Petit Le Mans. I was like, oh my God,
Yeah,
this
Petit
is
Le
taking
Mans, they were
forever.
Petit Le Mans, they were long, and Daytona, they were
Daytona, they were
long.
so long.
Yeah, I genuinely think that the full course yellow is like a half an hour at Daytona last year, and it's like, oh my god, that is the only year because I usually take some time off work so I can watch the full 24. I stay up, and that was the only year that I genuinely considered turning the race off in the middle of the night because it's at 3 o'clock in the morning. A frivolous full course yellow is very irritating.
I mean, it is what it is. Hopefully, if enough complaining about it is done, then maybe they'll fix it. I mean, bullying works. So maybe we can bully IMSA into changing it. I would love to see if we could actually do that. Anyways,
Oh god.
Ferrari, I think, is expanding to three entries, not for like the whole season, but I think for Le Mans they might have three entries now. And I know like Robert Kubica is supposed to be on one. of their lineups. And then I put Robert Schwartzman because I think that's strongly speculated who's probably going to be on it. It's not confirmed yet, but I think that's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, 3 cars, I guess, more is better, right? I mean, if they, feel like 3 cars is, the way to go, then I mean, certainly by all means. Having Kubica back for back in, Carback, and in a Ferrari and in the factory program is, super duper cool. Part of me still wonders what could have been for his F1 career if he didn't have that horrendous rally accident in, what was that, 2012, 2013. Um, but no, so no, happy to see the guy back. Happy to see him racing. We'll have to see what happens there. But that being said, given how ridiculously quick the Ferrari was at Le Mans, if they're adding more entries, it means in a wild world, could Le Mans podium lockout could be kind of wild.
I really want Ferrari to be in IMSA GTP. That's what I want. I know
I
that's wishful
completely agree.
thinking, and that's probably not going to happen. Because, I mean, at this point, Ferrari will probably expand to like having four hypercars in the World Endurance Championship before they even put one in IMSA. But
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Because yeah, looks like AF Corsa, which is based out of Houston, actually, if I remember correctly. Running the GT cars, and that's kind of what they do. Um, but yeah, no, it would be cool to get them to operate, one, even if it's just one car. Hell, throw it back to the 60s in the old North American racing team. Paint those suckers blue and white and go racing. That would be so sick. Have a blue 499P because it's an American operated car.
that'd be so
And
cursed.
yeah, it'd be so great though. And to have it run, I would love that. But also I believe in North American racing team supremacy. So I just want a blue factory Ferrari in some capacity somewhere as a
I mean, I
tribute.
can even picture a blue Ferrari. Like, they're always red. It's like,
That was part of why actually back in the 60s why it broke everybody's brains to have blue and white Ferraris. Because even up to that point, the Ferrari had just be known as the red ones. And then when Enzo was having a hissy fit over some FIA homologation rules for Le Mans, actually, ironically, and so he pulled out the cars, and then the North American racing team basically snatched them up to run them because they were in the running for driver's title. And this is 62 or 63 because this was a 250 LM was when this was early 60s. I just don't quite remember what year anymore, but yes, bring me blue Ferraris, please. We've had yellow ones, we've had burgundy ones, we've had like red and white for special liveries. Blue, it's right there, please.
they're never gonna do it. They're
No,
never
they're
gonna do
probably
it.
not.
Going to the 2024 World Endurance Championship entry list, who is not on the entry list? Van Wan Glickenhaus.
Hashtag
They're
Van
over.
Walling, hashtag Van Wallen Glickenhaus, our canceled party.
What's everybody wearing to the Van Wan Glickenhaus are over party?
I don't know. My Garage 56 shirt. That's what I'm gonna wear. But
I mean, this is not shocking though.
no, it's really not. Well, we've talked a fair bit about the fact that Van Wall is just kind of a mess, and then the fact that Jim Glickenhaus is a baby.
I mean, I
So
think Van Wall, the reason why they're not on the grid is because they're going to be in court.
yes, yes, and like I said, Glickenhaus is he's a baby, and he won't basically satisfy the homologation requirements that WEC wants. So he would much rather
I
just
mean,
leave.
at that point, because even like the whole like 2023 season, like they weren't even Glickenhaus was obviously like objectively terrible. But part of that
Yeah.
was because they didn't freaking test over
Nope.
the winter time. They did no sort of testing and just came into the season and it's like expecting to do somewhat well. It's like, no, you didn't test the car. So obviously you're not going to have the results that you expect or that the results that you desire.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really know what they were up to. And speaking of the duality of Glickenhaus, they follow
It's
me
very
on
like that
Instagram.
meme, like what was his plan?
Yeah, what was bro cooking? Absolutely nothing. But yeah, I like I said, I don't know because I funny. I can remember I called them out on Twitter once for being dumb, and they
Did they
blocked
block
me.
you?
Yes,
They
they did.
blocked,
But the funny thing is that they follow me on Instagram. I don't understand
they
it.
block everybody. I remember so many people were blocked by them on Twitter. So many people were blocked by them.
And it's like that legendary meme in NASCAR communities where that Austin Dillon live stream is like you're not the real number three. It's like Jim Glickenhaus and those stupid Stetsons he always wears. It's like take that shit off, man. It's like you don't deserve to wear that. He's like you would get wrecked by any real cowboy. But
And there is also drama with this other new team that I cannot pronounce their name.
oh yeah, it's that this
The,
the car is the
the
Vectre.
Italian team.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so the Fraschini. Yeah.
Because apparently they parted ways with Vector Sport, which I guess Vector Sport was supposed to be the one like running the team or something like
Mhm.
that. And like there's like a whole statement made by like the team principal.
Yeah, I remember I saw that on Twitter, I think, and I was like, "What on earth is going on here?"
It's like they're already starting off unserious.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if this is gonna have like implications later. I mean, it could, but I don't know. I just think this is bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's one of those things. It's like, death, taxes, and apparently drama with Italian racing teams. Like, like it's like the funny thing is the first thing that I had really heard about this the team and the manufacturer was the drama, which is just wild. To me, it's like
Oh, it's off to a great start. Their season is
exactly.
already going great.
I'm just it's like that it's that clip. I don't remember what it was from. I think it was from like a Netflix series or something where like it's Joe Pesci and he's looking at that like weird mix of mid-century and modernist house. I think it was painted like pink and purple. And he just looks down and he takes off his sunglasses and he's just like, what the fuck is this piece of shit? That's kind
Oh
of
my
how I
God, that is so funny.
that's what I was looking that was what I was thinking when I'm reading this. I'm like, what is going on here? I don't get it. But like I said, the fact that the first thing I hear about this team and this car is drama. I just think is just like absolutely exceptional. It's like 10 out of 10 work, guys.
10 out of 10, no notes.
None whatsoever.
Oh, so there's still a lot of TBAs for drivers in the World Endurance Championship. I know there's like these familiar people that are in the hypercar and even um in LMGT3 is what it's called now.
Hmm.
And funny enough, we have Nick DeFries is in the World Endurance Championship with Toyota, and he's also in Formula E too.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people were like, "Oh, his career is, gonna be over, blah blah blah," after the whole Formula One, AlphaTauri debacle. And it's like, no, I'm like, he's a pretty highly rated driver, basically everywhere else. I figure he might take some time away from racing, after all of that.
I mean, I thought so because like he went to freaking Harvard. So I'm like, is he still gonna go to Harvard even though he's like racing in two different series now?
Yeah, I don't know quite how that's going. How that's gonna go. But like I said, I'm happy to see, because we had briefly mentioned it in the F1 episode. He's with Mahindra in Formula E, and the fact that now he's going to be running races with Toyota in WEC is super cool. After the bad hand he got dealt in F1, I'm happy to see him bounce back like this.
Of course. And I think the dude that he replaced was Jose Maria Lopez, and he is moving to the Lexus LMGT3. Now Lexus is in the World Endurance Championship, and he is supposed to be driving that Lexus along with Kelvin Vanderlyn.
Yeah, a couple of things. Again, more manufacturers always good, but as the resident Corvette super fan, you mean to tell me we got to deal with Lexus and WEC now too? It's like the last couple of years that's been the fight of IMSA in GTD. So it's like, you mean to tell me you got to do this all over again? But I mean, this is what happens with the unification of the regs. It's like, okay, of course you're going to get more cross pollination in both series with manufacturer crossover. That was the whole point. So it's cool to see them enter. I need to Bozy Tatarevich and see. It's like, okay, you're going to be doing pit crew things in WEC now in LMGT3. It's like you're going to become Mr. Worldwide, running select races in WEC. I suspect probably not, but that would be super cool if he did. And I might actually legitimately at him after we finish recording and ask.
You should. You should do it. Let's see. What else do we have? Yeah, we have apparently, I think there were like Alpine, their driver lineup got announced, and some of those people on that lineup I'm not familiar with, and their names are kind of complicated, so I'm really not going to try to say some of them. But I know Mick Schumacher is on one of the Alpine hypercars, which I guess that's not too surprising because he did test with them. However, it is a little surprising who they didn't sign was Jack Doohan, which I thought that was going to happen. Other people thought that was going to happen too, but it didn't. So
Yeah, it was widely speculated that Jack was gonna end up on the um doing the running hypercar. And yeah, I'm a little surprised that he didn't, especially given that he's a part of sort of Alpine's driver development sphere. Now he could be doing a oh my god, his name Drugovich, sorry, thank you. Where he is waiting, maybe on trying to do F1 because he did do a free practice test actually here very recently.
I think he might have. Was it this past race, the last Abu Dhabi race? Did he do
I
it?
think it might have been actually. Give me just a
There was
second.
a
Yeah,
lot of people that were.
yeah, yeah. It was. It was Abu Dhabi. It was free practice one. Um, so I don't know. That could well have something.
I mean, to be honest, I don't really think Drugovich is like a person you really want to be modeling your career choices after,
No.
because we've already talked about him before. Him turning down like an IndyCar test with ECR, and it's like I get it, it's ECR, but still, you're kind of low on options here, and it does not look like Formula One is going to be viable. So you might as well take what you can get. So I don't know.
Yeah, once again I completely agree. We'll have to see. I mean, to be fair, yeah, Duhan is a bit younger, so there's certainly a bit more time. But I think he should have. I feel like the speculation comes probably there probably is some kernel of truth to that, and I feel like if that is indeed the case, he should have taken the hypercar drive.
Because honestly, I think he's been in F2 for a while now. And it's like the longer you are in F2, the
The
less
less
viable it's going to be that you're going to move to Formula One. unfortunately. It just
Yeah,
seems to be how that works.
yeah, he has been in F2 for the past 3 seasons. With that culminating in him finishing third this past year. I just went and pulled up his Wikipedia page to kind of have a look because I had kind of the same thought. Um, he got a couple wins, one at Hungary and with the the Hungary, actually the feature race he won, and then the Yas Marina feature race he also won. So yeah, so certainly, he's improving year on year, but again, and actually we were just talking about this in the F1 episode, given kind of, everybody wants, folks who basically win lots and win quickly, 3 years and up to this point, no title to show for it and only a couple of wins in F2. Um, yeah, because he has won basically 3 years in F2 and 5 wins. Because he
Yeah, I don't. It's not looking too good.
Yeah, no, it's not. So I don't think Formula One. I don't really think it's on the cards. And yeah, hypercar would probably have been good for him. But yeah, and then actually until that end, it's cool to see Mick Schumacher in the lineup. Because yeah, he's done some testing, and yeah, it's cool to see him with the drive. Because isn't he still technically in sort of like reserve slash testing capacity for Mercedes? I do believe he
I
is.
think he's still a reserve for them.
Yeah, which is, of course, it would be actually super cool if Mercedes had like a hypercar program because that was how his father got his start, was was running Le Mans in the very early 90s. It was like 91 or 92 with the Sauber C9.
You know,
Um,
I really wish Mercedes had a hypercar. I wish they did.
It would be so cool. Again, I know they're all there, all in on Formula One, but it would be cool to see them have a hypercar program. But I also know that, well, it's been 25 years and they still get memed for the way the CLR like to take flight.
Yeah,
So,
they might not even like honestly, because I mean that was like the last time Mercedes was even at Le Mans, I think. So it's like
hmm
I mean they might even I don't even think they could do it to be honest. They might have a hypercar and then get to Le Mans and freak out on the keyboard essentially and just not do the race.
Yeah, basically. So I don't know. Yeah, because actually Mercedes's track record at Le Mans actually really isn't very good. They seem to be prone to complete disasters. CLR is taking flight. The infamous 1955 crash that killed lots of people. That was a Mercedes that did that. Um, so I don't know. I think Mercedes probably feels like Le Mans is bad juju for them.
It
And
might be,
I say to
honestly.
be fair, they're not completely wrong, I don't think.
No, they're not. Going
But
back to keeping on the theme, I guess, of new entries to the hypercar party, we have BMW. They are running two cars in the World Endurance Championship and two cars in IMSA, so they're 2 and 2. And so far, they have at least one driver for each lineup confirmed, which is Sheldon Vanderlyn again, and Dries Van Toor.
oh, it's funny, always hilarious the amount of like brothers and stuff that run in sports car racing.
They're now all in the same series, which is hilarious.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's so funny. But yeah, I
Coincidental, I guess.
yeah, exactly. But nope, I mean last year we talked about it certainly early last year in IMSA, the BMW, I think it's just called V8 GTP if I remember correctly. Um was not particularly quick. I mean, that disaster class at Daytona, but they pulled it together. They were admittedly, it was kind of a long shot for a championship, but they were in the hunt, which is wild to say after just how bad that car was early in the season. So assuming that they've done work over the on the off season to
Listen, I'm hoping that they do not get into the World Endurance Championship and the very first race off the bat at Qatar, they completely bomb it and
oh my
have
god.
a Daytona repeat over again because technically they had a kind of a head start to in IMSA. I mean,
Hmm.
granted the regulations are different, but the cars are still kind of the same, so they kind of should know what they're doing. But if they don't, and it just turns out to be a complete disaster class again, it would be the most BMW thing ever.
Yeah, agreed. It would be very funny. But it would look so bad if they had another basically if Bahrain was just, Daytona 2 Electric Boogaloo. That would be atrocious if that's what ended up happening. But I certainly hope it's not. Again, the car got faster. Admittedly, they kind of Mickey Moused a win with the Porsches getting disqualified because of the skid block stuff. But
I mean, even like Sebring from Daytona to Sebring, there was improvement because they somehow managed to pull a podium out of their ass.
yeah, exactly. By all accounts, if you had to just watch Daytona, you would not have figured that that was what was going to happen. But no,
If
we'll
it happens,
see.
actually, they might just rage quit Hypercar.
And the funny thing is when I had floated that theory and you laughed at me a little bit for it, but I think honestly they probably would. They probably would pack up and go home because well, they have as much as I said way back when it was announced that they were doing WEC. Um they have a habit of doing that when things don't go well. Because when the M8 was getting its ass kicked in IMSA, they pulled the car out at IMSA competition, and where they went WEC only, and the car still really wasn't any faster, but or any more competitive.
Oh, the
Um,
M8s. They were like love the memes, but
yeah, the memes were
the
great. The car
cars are
really
just so
wasn't. Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens, but I am for one hoping that we do not have Daytona version 2. Okay, maybe I am a little bit. Anyway, moving on.
it would just be funny. Like I kind of want to see it happen just for comedy reasons.
Yeah, I do too.
But I'm like, if it happens, it would be a disaster for this organization.
It absolutely would. People would get fired if that happened.
But I'm like, again, part of me wants the drama. I kind of want a little bit of drama. But
Mm,
anyways, going on to the schedule for WEC in 2024. Obviously, like we said before, the Super Sebring weekend, the doubleheader with IMSA, is no more, which is unfortunate because I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good deal
hmm
for um fans at least, and they have a new race on there. I mean, Qatar is also a new race, I think, and they also have the World Endurance Championship. They're at Coda now. The event called Lone Star Le Mans, which is hilarious, I think.
It's so cringe.
It kind of is, but I'm like, I feel like it's a kind of like a giveaway. Like, what
Yeah.
else would you title that race?
Yeehaw. Sorry.
I wonder if they'll do it like Formula One and everybody gets cowboy hats and the podium
uh,
celebration.
probably. I fully expect the social media teams to go nuts with, we're in Texas and, they've got Stetsons and, cowboy boots on. And it's like, oh my God. WEC will be obnoxious that week.
They will be so cringy. It will be the most cringiest, obnoxious shit that they've ever done. But
Yep.
honestly, at that point, you kind of have to just play the bit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, do you I mean, much to your point, do you really do anything different when you're in Texas, especially given that this is the first year? But
So I guess now I don't even know because there's just so much content.
yeah, I know there's
Just
quite a lot.
looking at all of this.
Yeah, it's been busy. Well, I know before we adjourned, well, when we did before the Las Vegas episodes, there was Macau.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, because we were on the run up to Macau when we did that, and it was surprisingly calm.
The race was calm. Qualifying was not though. I mean, there
No, it
wasn't
was not.
huge issues, but like the Hello Kitty car crashed, which I'm
Which I
like,
was so disappointed.
I was disappointed because it didn't get to race, and I'm like, and it looks so good. I'm like, why?
Honestly, I'm hoping they make a diecast of that because I will get it.
It'll be all like crumpled up and completely
Yeah.
destroyed.
Well, I'm hoping it's not a like raced condition diecast, and it's just anyway.
But I mean, the race was relatively calm because I
Mhm.
mean, with the exception of there was like a little bit of argy-bargy with Porsches, specifically between Kevin Estre and Earl Bamber, which Kevin Estre, to be honest, was driving like a madman that weekend. I don't know what got into him, but he was driving like a complete madman. He even like wrecked in qualifying. I think he hit the wall or something, and he was just dive bombing people into like turns. It's like, calm down.
But he was at Macau. He knew that he had to inject the spice, or maybe he was scared that he was gonna get caught up in the mess, and that was why he was driving like a lunatic. Something
I
something
mean, to
Streisand
be honest,
effect.
that's what I'm like, if everybody had that same feeling, the race would have been complete chaos. If everybody decided, yeah, I'm just gonna start driving like a lunatic because they think that something else is gonna happen because they're in reaction to like everybody else driving like a lunatic, it would have been 2017 all over again.
Mhm.
Which is like I
Ex
kind of wanted to see that happen, but it didn't. So
Yeah, it was gonna be kind of a mess if we had basically 2017, part 2. Um, but it would have been very, very funny. But no, a reasonably calm, Macau is not necessarily a bad thing, especially given the, 50 bajillion cars that it feels like they have out on track. It's such a tiny circuit.
everybody was on their best behavior. They were all good boys, and we can all give them a cookie for that.
Yes, indeed. But so I guess before we wrap the episode, you got
Yeah,
anything else for us?
yeah, so the race winner was Lalo,
Hmm.
obviously. Not shocking, to be honest.
No,
Won his final race with Mercedes before he moves to BMW. He's with BMW now, which I'm pretty sure he's probably going to be on the hypercar lineup. So
probably.
it's not confirmed, but that's a given, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, and I'm not sure, you would go to BMW and really end up anywhere else other than the hypercar, especially if you're working with them in any kind of factory capacity.
You know what else we forgot? Is some another big name person that's in the World Endurance Championship now is Valentino Rossi. He's in the
Oh,
World Endurance Championship now.
holy smokes. Yeah, you are absolutely right. I read that and went, holy smokes, and then still managed to forget. Yeah, so
I'm
is
like
he?
staring at the freaking entry list right in front of my face, and I still missed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because I don't completely remember, I'm assuming this is gonna be Valentino and his is this gonna be under Team VR or some other capacity?
It's WRT.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Because I feel like he runs Team VR M4s and something.
I mean, he might. I've only really been familiar with him running with WTR with a lot of the like GT races, like the GT Intercontinental and like GT Challenge races.
Yep. I'm running off to Google because I don't know if I'm Mandela affecting right now, but I feel like there's some blue and like bright green.
I
Oh, okay.
literally, I couldn't tell you.
Let's see. Oh, it's his colors, but yeah, they are WRT cars. Interesting. Alrighty. I was Mandela affecting a bit. I don't know why I thought that was Team Valentino Rossi because he does have his own, or at least he did. I feel like he did have his own team in running with BMW at one point. But like I said, editor Danny might make an appearance and splice something in to clarify that if I can find what I'm looking for. But
I just think that's a very interesting arc that he went from like motorbike racing to sports
mm,
car racing.
yeah, I mean, well, truth be told, I mean, Valentino won basically everything that there was to win in MotoGP for a considerable amount of time. There comes a point where I guess he's like, you got to do something different, and this is what he picked. And I know he's always actually really, really liked BMWs because I will never forget. This was in like kind of early days of YouTube. There was a video because he had a E60 M5, so one of the V10 powered M5s from back in the day, and he was like chucking it around and sliding it like in like dirt and gravel, so basically turning an M5 into a rally car. And certainly, if that is to be believed, then his relationship, his love of BMWs goes back quite far, because that had to be like 2006, 2007 when that video was up. But yeah, no, it goes deep. So it's cool to see him certainly. And well, if he can be half as successful in cars as on bikes, then well, he'll do pretty good.
I mean, he's done pretty well from what I've seen, so I don't see why he wouldn't do too well here.
Yeah, exactly. But I hesitate to call it a foregone conclusion because the moment I do, that's of course when it's wrong. So it's like reverse psychology, but except that's not exactly how that works. But anyway, but anything else for us before we adjourn the episode?
I don't think so.
Well, in which case, it has been absolutely wonderful recording for y'all again. Um, Thank you so much for listening. Um, I don't think there are any firm plans on kind of next episodes at the moment. I mean, I know Asian Le Mans will be starting up here fairly shortly.
It
Um,
already started,
or actually,
actually.
yeah, technically, yes, as the time of this recording, it's already started. But so, we'll have some race recaps there. But so I will probably write some more long form content to kind of carry us through, given that Asian Le Mans series is the only thing that is active at the moment. Um, before we get to like Daytona and what have you, at the end of January. So, we had talked a bit about, in the last episode, crummy slash shady sponsors and F1. And well, there are a lot of those from, Andrea Moda to, T minus, Moneytron. The Their possibilities are endless. So maybe something like that. So we'll play it by ear a little bit, but I feel like that'll be next on the docket for next recording. But until that happens, thank you so much for listening, and we will catch you in the next one. Until next time.
Peace.